Thank you. Good morning. Hello. How are you today? I bet you back in your days it was cheaper to fill it up than $11. Oh yeah, that's really cheap. I noticed that since I've been staying away from here, I get error. My uncle passed away. And I have bronchitis. So I had to go to Virginia and help my aunt, she's 80. She keeps looking around like she needs to. So I went there and tried to help her, but I had bronchitis and gave her bronchitis. I love that you still work on those little things.
Should we chant in English first?
Okay, I don't think this works. Hello, hello.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. English first and then Tibetan?
English first, yeah.
Turn to page 1 in your prayer book. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and all-knowingness, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood.
Om Dala Dhammapada Jibendra Nubara Jibenge Tawa Tam Jin Jimbe Bardo Jubara Jiba Tam Jiji Zoe Jib Ma Namga Dan Nyambe Simjen Tam Jin Dewa Dan Den Dunga Dan Jer Nyordalana Meba Yonta Barazobe Jorimboje Tobaisha.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Ti jedo san ma ji je bardo lunga yizange wala go ma je bardo lunga yizange wala go du direne sonde nyama santa zamje bardo lunga yizange wala go.
All sentient beings, limitless as the sky, take refuge in the glorious, kind Lama Vajradhara, the embodiment of the body, speech, mind, qualities, and activities of the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, source of the 84,000 categories of the teaching and Lord of the Sanghas. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Edams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root Lama and lineage Lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the Edams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom.
Namgen Tada Nyambe Simjen Tam Choju Tu Somje Tijin Shikba Tam Chiji Ko Zon Toi Yoden Chenle Tam Jiji Ngobore Jirwa Juji Pungbo Dongcha Jiji Zayin Jungme Hobi Gendu Tam Jiji Ngada Chinchen Zawa Dan Jubara Jibi Parzen Lama Tamba Nam Kyazan Ji Wo Yedam Jingoro Ji La Soa Nam La Jabsu Ji Wo Sanji Jamden De Nam La Jabsu Ji Tambe jo namla jap Om Bhagye Kende Namla Jasun Je Om Pawon Kandro Chuchon Sume So Yeshe Je Tiandan Denpa Namla Jasun Je Om.
Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma and likewise in the assembly of the Bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the Bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path.
Janjo Nyingbo Jije Pa Sanje Namla Jasun Je Chodan Janjo Samba Ye Solan Teji Jasun Je Shedar Munje Deji Je Janjo Tone Je Batan Janjo Sembe Alabala Dadaran Je Nevada Tejin rola benden do changjo semnen jiji Tejin dene la bala remba jindo la
In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings.
Sanje chodan soje chonam la chanjo bardo dane japsan je Nage jinso je be sunam je rola penjere sanje ruhare sho.
May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness which is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Om Nam Gadan Yambe Semchen Tamje Dewa Dan Deve Jodan Choje Dunga Dan Dunga Je Jodan Travar Choje Dunga Mebe Dewa Dan Mendra Vara Choje Nyeren Jodan Yindan Tra
Refuge of all sentient beings without exception, divine subjugator of terrifying Maras, together with their hosts of demons, the one who understands all realities without exception exactly as they are, transcending conqueror, together with your disciples, please come here to this place.
Banzara Samanza, Banzara Samanza, Banzara Samanza, Malu Semchen Kunjin Gongjo Chen, Tude Pongje Mezin Jumze Lam, Gona Malu Jishin Jenjurabe, Fyumden gorje nendere jesu sorgan padam bupe dupe alogen gende nivede shabda bardiza so.
The ground is sprinkled with scented water and strewn with flowers. It is adorned with Meru, the supreme mountain, the 4 continents, and the sun and moon. As a Buddha field I offered. May all sentient beings attain the happiness of the Buddha fields. Whatever merit I've gathered through prostrations, offerings, confessing, rejoicing, reteaching, and praying. For the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate.
Sanje shen la me de bawai do nanda shen de jo re sho chanza dan ju jing
Dhammapada.
jizo ye rang go shen so wa ye gewa junze dagi jizo ba tam je zo be shan jo jeng o.
Okay, then on to page 11. Namo. To the Lama of utterly pure appearance and existence, I offer the fundamental ground of appearance and existence. I supplicate you to thoroughly liberate the 3 realms. Please grant your blessings and overturn the depths of samsara. Sublime Master, wish-fulfilling jewel, crown ornament, the inconceivable, inexpressible mind of the victorious ones, the one endowed with the 5 wisdoms of omniscience, gracious one, the embodiment of love, precious protector of beings, I supplicate you from within the essence of mind. Please grant your blessings from within the innate nature. Please bless me that I may realize the Dharmakaya that is beyond intellect, this primordially unborn, completely pure mind, transcendent conqueror, the one thus gone, foe destroyer of afflictive emotions, completely perfected Buddha, endowed with logic and virtue, the one gone to bliss, knower of the world, captain, tamer of beings, the unexcelled teacher of gods and men, I respectfully prostrate, completely touching my head to the stainless feet of the unequaled Shakya king. At the time of your birth, leader of 2-legged beings, taking 7 steps on this great earth, you proclaimed, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise even then, I prostrate. Possessing a body of complete purity, your sublime form is excellent. An ocean of primordial wisdom, you are like a golden mountain. The one whose renown is evident throughout the 3 worlds, protector of supreme attainment, to you I prostrate. To you who are endowed with the supreme marks, whose face is like an immaculate moon, to you, the one with a complexion like gold, I prostrate. A flawless one such as you among the 3 levels of existence is most exquisite. Unparalleled, omniscient one, to you I prostrate. Supreme among humans, captain of those to be tamed, the one thus gone who severs the all-binding fetters, who with senses pacified is utterly pacified and skilled in peace, to that one, the one who dwelled at Shravasti, I prostrate. Refuge endowed with great compassion, totally omniscient one who indicates the way, ground basis for oceans of merit and qualities, I prostrate to the one thus gone. The pure cause free from attachments, the virtue that liberates from the lower realms, and altogether supreme ultimate truth, to the pacifying Dharma I prostrate. Having been liberated, they also reveal the path to liberation. Thoroughly respectful of the 3 higher trainings, they are a field of sublime qualities. To the Sangha I also prostrate. And back to page 9.
Namo nasi namdagi lama la nasi jijin sun jubam kamsoy yongzhu tu suwan de kurwa tongzhu zu jinji lo jeyi shi norwa zogi jan masan jume jarwe to Timbe yeshe nga dan den zewe dani gari jen Rowa jomze rinpo je dasini je ngane zorwande Chuni je ngando yin je lo sendu ne jeme namdande Londe chokur dobar yin je lo Jom dende tishin shikha Rajumba yang tabara zobe
Sangye
Rikpa dan shabso denpa Devara shikpa jiten jem Jiva indarwa kalo jirwa lana meba ladan me Namje tomba inya Shaji jarbu shabji dur kama me bal Govara da de kubi janta lo Kanse kanyin zawai judan zi sajin dala kumbha dinkoran Manen jiten dinan joji som Dizen kibar julai janzalo Namdai kangan jodo sozon wa Yishi janzo zirgi lumbandra Chaban jiten zona long ewa Ngombo chonyi julai janzalo Senjo denbai jimin dawi jar Zendon rawai julai janzalo Dara chandra ziba somnan zim Nyame chen chen julai janzalo Joen darwa kalo junze jen Kunjurin chingwa junze teshin she Ombo she jen nye she lanke Nye yu shuba dala janza lo Gombo tu je je dan ba Tam jen chen ba dan ba Sonai yoden janzu shi ti yi lai janzal Tabin du jia chawe ju ge ngan san le zhu xin Jie ye do dan zhu zhu wai xin zhu chu lai janzal Zhu ne zhu we alam yang dan la ba da la ra ba Shenge tamba yoden shen gendu layam chansalo.
Okay, then to page 15. I prostrate to the youthful Manjusri, to those in the worlds of the 10 directions, however many there are, all the lions among humans who appear during the 3 times, to all of them without exception, I pay homage with respectful body, speech, and mind. The force of my aspiration prayer for excellent conduct brings all the victorious ones directly to mind. Bowing down with bodies as numerous as atoms in the realms, I prostrate to all the victorious ones. In a single atom, there are Buddhas as numerous as atoms, each residing in the midst of their sons and daughters. Like that, I imagine the whole Dhammapada completely filled with victorious ones. To those with oceans of inexhaustible, praiseworthy qualities, with sounds containing oceans of tones of melodic speech, I express the qualities of all the victorious ones. I praise all the Sugatas. With the finest flowers, the finest garlands, music, ointments, supreme parasols, supreme lamps, and the finest incense, I make offerings to the victorious ones. with the finest cloths, supreme scents, and fine powders equal to Mount Meru, all displayed in supreme and magnificent ways. I make offerings to those victorious ones. With vast and unsurpassable offerings, I venerate all the victorious ones. Through the power of faith and excellent conduct, I prostrate and offer to the victorious ones. Whatever negative actions I have performed with body, speech, and also mind, overpowered by desire, aggression, and stupidity, I confess each and every one of them. I rejoice in everyone's merit, the victorious ones of the 10 directions, the bodhisattvas, the pratyeka Buddhas, those in training, those beyond training, and all beings. I request the protectors, the lamps of the worlds of the 10 directions, who passing through the stages of awakening, attain Buddhahood beyond attachment, to turn the unsurpassable Dharma wheel. I supplicate with my palms joined together, those who intend to demonstrate nirvana, to remain for kalpas as numerous as atoms in the realms, for the welfare and happiness of all beings. I dedicate whatever slight virtue is accumulated through prostrating, offering, confessing, rejoicing, requesting, and supplicating to enlightenment. And to page 14.
Okay, thank you. Om Papan Jambara Shona Jurwala Jansa Lo Shini Sota Jujun Jiktana Tuzon Jikba Meje Senge Age Malu Dada Damji La Ludan Aye Danwe Jaji Sambo Jube Molan Dada Ge Jarwa Damji Ije ngazam de jinge dunye lura de ba ye jawa gun la ra de jansa. Turje dena dunye sanje nam sanje seje wana yishurba da 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 re jeje yana malu ba damji jarwa da ge kanwaram. Tadai ngabai meze janzo na yangje yanglai janzo dragon. Jawa gunje yoden raje yin devara shikwa tamje dage. Medo damban chungwa damba dan sinye namdan jubwa dongjo. Ni jodan dobu damba ye jawa dada lanen jubara shi nasa damba namdan chunjo dan chime purmai rarai nyamba. Kuba chibaran babi jovim di jarwa dada layan jubara joba kana lame jajewa dada jarwa damje layan. Sompo jula debe dovda ge jawa gunla jansaran joban. Doja shedan demo wange ne ludan adan tejin yiji. Dikwa dage jiba jinji ba da tamji dage sosor. Choje jarwa gundan sanje se ranja namdan lobdan mala. Rowa gunje sonan kanlan dada gunje jeso da yero. Kanlan joje jidan droma da shangjo rambara sanje majan. Gombo dada dage damje lan bolo lana me barago. Yangan dada kanshi dada lan rowa gunla pension dewe. Karwa jingi dorni joba yam dage tarmo rabjara zorwa. Chantarwa dan jujin shangwa dan jiso yiran korjin zorwa. Kawa junzi dage jiza ba tamji zobe shangja jengo.
And to page 16. Please turn the wheel of the Dharma of the two vehicles and their combination according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
Sumchen namji sambada loye chera chedawa chejun temon tebaye chujen kolo ordo so. Okay, thank you everyone. I'm sure you have much more important things to do on Sundays and still coming here for participating, I guess, in this gathering. And we try to learn some Dharma words and concepts and try to understand, and also maybe we can apply those in our daily practice. If you are new, this is really basic Buddhist teaching. If you are really advanced Buddhist practitioner, this is also the foundation of the teaching. So we never kind of go beyond foundational teachings. That's a rule. And first of all, I think I better to recite or chant my lineage prayer. That if you are not familiar with Buddhist teachings, we chant our lineage chantings that carries blessings from Buddhas to our root guru. That's what we do. And just relax and listen. And we already chant this daily practice chanting, and you can see some areas we need to chant 3 times. Means that's very important part. And most those lines we know, taking refuge and generate bodhicitta. So these 2 are most important things. That's why we need to chant 3 times. So that's also including not just chanting, but also through this chanting, sometimes Tibetan we say Tsikje Tön Tren. So while you're chanting the words, you are also, it carries or it reminds you the meaning of it. So that's why we always chant, and practice that involve chanting is important. I know it's difficult to listen or maybe even try to chant Tibetan without knowing the meaning and where to break the syntax and so forth. I mean, maybe one day we can talk about how to break it. Some verses are easy because 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, but some verses are 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. So it's difficult. And then prose are even more difficult because where to pause, and those things are also difficult. But that's, if you are interested in, we can do that too. Okay, first I chant, and you can, whatever you want to meditate or focus on your motivation or anything that you want to focus on at this time. Zum sanje dam je jingo re dang jingo re jam zo cha da ga rin zum me tu je dan yin kam zum ju je jar bo shab je be mo do tar jing chen ma me yo rab de de go zong gu ba jen bo go ne chang tar jing jab zun je o je wa ne cha rab jing chen wa tan je do do ze wa jen bo go ne je se son ju xin je la ban ze do so gong ge jar song da wen men gong ke zhen zhen ben dong zha xin chen be se wo chen zhe za wen zhou ge me ge de ze tuk jin da ma ge ne ju ren ji ten zom jin kong jia be tong pe ma gar bo de ren da lo yan zo rai zhong ur Jen Solang, Peme Damboze, Jervin Namdo, Ranjung Hunjir. Senzo Beye Yoden Sombarwe, Pemanjune Dalo Benzo Rojan, Shini Tangun, Shijin Sikmin, Chense Jinko Ragon, Dogun Zemu, Mbasen Zelo, Rugun Dinyan Zejo, Kodon Yishi Japan Mekong, Chuyin Kalan Zebak. Jambar Shun Gune Gave Zogen Chu, Introbe Makal Bonzumbe Shal, Sozra Donge Chawaj. Yingen se lo zhong jiao zhe yong jian ge bar mo da yi jiang. Kong re de ge ren qian ying bong go yo den gun jiang ge wi ji zhe ten ying bo tong zai bei bei nan jiu ba chen mei wei si xiao jie da yi jiang. Xi ya gen zhen zhou le ji zi de chen mei wei si yong zhuo tu de ren zi. 无色龙见南开南俱完，净灭灵被小拉所完的。切德加瑞是不学完来，弄得这边往就下瓦这是从旁就东啊上中我。净灭去见往不大一讲，这东江把这小女下来了，公白龙的宝贝的接触，龙多君在讲说我当就。 那旁家苗南家了个江子，要等上街跟大娘那样，跟着上街跟来那边，在为郎没下了所完的，到上这为了南去来就。Okay, thank you. And yeah, this is, I think it's important if you practice some Vajrayana or Tibetan Buddhist, better to have some lineage prayers, and it's always important to have bring down the blessing of the lineage or blessing of the guru, especially in our Drigong tradition. We often have this five-fold path of Mahamudra. You can see that the Lama Kuyi can't read. The Lama is Snow Mountain, and your devotion is as like sun, and bring down in order to blessing streams bring down depend on your devotion. It's not the other way. That's important part. And today, I believe we are in the last chapter of this Dhammapada. People translated Dhammapada as either Dharma verses or so this kind of pada is footstep or path that footsteps of Buddha's teaching or Dharma verses that collected from Buddha's own teaching. And maybe we also can remind ourselves that this month, especially lunar calendar Tibetan, the 1st to 15th is called important month, and Tibetan we call Chuntrun Dawa. I don't know how to say in the Chuntrun Dawa. Do you know? Buddhist Miracles Day. Everyone observe Chuntrun Dawa that Buddha make all kind of miracles that first day to 15th every day. He show different miracles to bring people around him in the Buddhist path to teach dharmas that involve karma and so forth. and those followers realize in different degrees and attain arhat or bodhisattva stages. And of course, Buddha's teaching is we can sort of summarize in a very condensed way. It's often called the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. There's four truths. The truths that maybe we ordinary beings or would not see directly, but it's deep down, it's a truth, and why we call noble truth, because the Arya, sometimes in a Sanskrit called Arya, but Tibetan is Pakpa. Anyway, in English we often use as noble. What does that mean? Is the noble means it's not ordinary beings, means you have tremendous bodhicitta, compassion, and understanding of emptiness, or even Theravadan tradition, we have arhats. So that sort of subject is understanding by only nobles. For example, Buddha say we need to recognize suffering. Sometimes people don't want to bring up the subjects of suffering, but that's kind of we cannot avoid, we all know. Not only that, Buddha think that we somehow human or sentient beings do not recognize what is suffering, what suffering is. So we often say in our life we have happiness that we thought it's not suffering, but Buddha is saying it will change. It will change and it becomes suffering and so forth. In samsara, usually, sometimes I'm a little bit harsh on or too traditional to talk about these how traditional Buddhist teachings involve and what is the aim of that and what is the purpose of that. Is much more sort of less concerned about these worldly things, which means our daily life thing, and more about how to eradicate the suffering totally, which involves tremendous practice and sacrifice that people sometimes don't want to hear, but that we need to know what the message is. And of course, then the suffering, nobody wants to have suffering. That's why people try to get rid of suffering. The suffering itself, we cannot just eradicate the suffering directly, but we need to think about what the cause of suffering is. And in order to get rid of suffering, we need to understand what the cause is. So mainly, most teachings are involved with the trying to introduce or teach what truth is. The truth can, or understanding truth or realizing truth may is it's maybe the remedy to get rid of suffering. That is important things. Then, of course, we always talks about our samsaric things arise from ignorance, which means ignorance is the cause of the suffering, and also ignorance means you unaware of something, or you should know in a certain way, but you didn't know that. That's why it's making mistake or confusion or delusion that often we talk about. And of course, then in order to, well, now we know what is suffering is and what is the cause of suffering is, and then how to get rid of this cause of suffering is we call path. The path means practice and understanding. And path often involves studying, contemplation, and meditation. These three are very important. In the Buddhist tradition, not only practice itself, but also the foremost important part is studying, or sometimes we call listening, pondering meditation, or either way we can talk about these. So 3 steps to go through. First, study to understand words, that what teaching is, and then kind of contemplating or pondering on meanings, and then knowing the meaning or understanding of the meaning is bring into meditation to improve further kind of development of understanding. And then the nirvana is the stage where the suffering is eradicated and ever peace and the last a state that we sometimes call arhat in the Buddhahood. If we all whoever's goal is this sort of arhat or Buddhahood, that's the kind of main practice. And if not, then in the Buddhist teachings we have these 3 sort of lesser and the medium and the greater degree of stage or person, so based on person's motivation. So if you just want to be or become better life, God and human realms, that's we call lesser motivation, and then the medium is become arhat, and the great motivation is involved helping others. So that's sort of summary of what Buddhists trying to practice themselves, and also trying to let others know that their kind of involvement of the practice and how they see the whole world and how they treat the suffering. And of course, then Mahayana comes, treating others is a very important part. The bodhicitta is, there's 2 aspects here. It's you want to become Buddha purpose is to help others, or for the sake of other beings, not only humans, but more in general, entire human, sentient beings, sorry. And I think we went through a few verses that we need to abandon the sin or bad karmas and so forth. And then we talk about these Brahmins. That's what sometimes confusing, because these terms are used in 2,500 years ago. So of course, there in India, when Buddha was around, their castes or classes are obvious in a society, and their sort of job or their label division is very strong. And what Burmans do is Burman priests is mainly doing a sort of priesthood, that what we do in the Christian or Buddhist we know. And that's their job. And here Buddha used Chamse as in Tibet we have Chamse, but Brahmins, they suppose not only the caste, but their duty is to practice Dharma. And that's why he is used, if you are a real Brahmin, then you should do this, yeah. And these talk to Shariputra, and Shariputra, I'm not sure, maybe many people don't have books. I think it's fine, but just these teachings should be simple and basic. So don't worry about too much technical things in here. If in the future, if you have a book, maybe you can read yourself. And these teachings are just kind of take from the bigger pool of teaching. So there's not much about linear kind of teachings. It's just excerpts that are relevant to the Buddhist, of course, Buddhist teaching, but relevant to general audience. And then, if I am right, we are in verse 8, that's truth?
7, maybe? 7?
7? 7 is Chamse. I remember we talk about Brahmins.
Okay.
No?
I'm not precise about it. I'm not sure we're on the right page.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Page 191.
Yeah, and spoken concerning Shariputra, is that one?
I think.
Okay.
I think.
Okay. If someone wanted to read
Okay.
English is fine, but I can read Tibetan first. It's not necessary, but just we unless Tibetans are still around and we can read Tibetan, maybe it's not that important, but somehow nice to have to read Tibetan and then someone read in English. Maybe Maiden, please help us. Chamse lan dik misha, tela chamse tro misha. Jima chamse dikba ngen, teli tel tro ngen.
No one should strike a Brahmin, but being struck, no Brahmin should feel anger. Alas, misfortune for the one who harms a Brahmin, but greater misfortune for the Brahmin who turns in anger.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Here's one. Yeah, maybe Dorji read another one. Oh, that's why.
Hello. A Brahmin should not strike a Brahmin, nor unleash his anger against him. Shame on him who strikes a Brahmin. More shame on him who unleashes his anger.
That's too harsh. And here doesn't say Brahmin is striking or beating another Brahmin, but since we know Brahmin here treat as a good practitioner, it's not saying the caste in India, Brahmin, but no one should strike anyone. So mainly the message is, and even someone strike you, you should not feel anger against that person or with that person. And this is a basic practice, what we call 6 paramitas, and generosity and discipline and patience, that what here is talking about. You cannot feel anger or what's that. And this is, I think, of course, difficult part. Or I'm not saying this is no one can do it, but it's of course, obviously, the whole world problem is we always think someone did something wrong and someone did something purposely wrong, and so we need to somehow revenge or some sort of justice. That in the West we often talk about justice, and other ways thinking about revenge. But in the West, seems revenge is a bad thing and justice is a good thing. So it's sometimes difficult to fathom to me, and it's the same thing. It's only you don't want to sort of involve to beating someone. So that's the main thing. But here, of course, 1037 Bodhisattva practice even more kind of vivid, or language is much more vivid, and talking about even someone cut your head, you need to respect that person as your guru. So it's a little bit difficult. And when I was, I think, 13 or 14 years old, I first studied 37 Bodhisattva practice, and I couldn't I couldn't tolerate, or I didn't really phantom, or I didn't really accept that that practice. But of course, that's everything we learn, what we already know or we already accepted, then it's not really learning. And of course, mentioned ignorance involves misunderstanding or confusion or delusion, which means we need to know that maybe everything against what we believe in order to practice, or we need to change everything what we do to go on a path that our delusional will kind of diminish or discard on that path. So anyway, these one should not strike anyone, and anyone should not upset with or against to taking revenge and justice. That is what teaching here. Sometimes people sort of criticize that if I was reading many years ago, I was teaching Bodhicharya Avatara and Pemakara Translation Committee group that they wrote kind of extensive introduction, and then somewhere they mentioned that maybe you can look at them and say, in the Buddhist teachings, there is no justice. So, and you can see sometimes in the West, some people don't like Milarepa because he never served justice and so forth. It's, justice is very important in Western culture. And here, so anyone should not feel anger to anyone. That's what book says. I'm not saying what I can do or you must do, but it's saying that is our teaching. And then verse 8, yi ji gawa dona chamze la te yi penpa jungzi yu minde. Cheder tedan tsevi semshiwa teda dunga shiwani.
When the Brahmin turns his mind from pleasure, no small benefit arises. When he quiets his vindictiveness, then he quiets that much suffering.
This is of no small benefit to a Brahmin, to have restraint of mind about things that are dear. The more the will to harm ceases, the more his sorrow is calmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mentioned this ignorance is the cause of the samsara or suffering. And some Pali teachings, we already noticed that earlier, the first verse that talk about craving, and the craving is the cause of the samsara and so forth. But that's, if you want to look at these two causes of samsara, you can look at Pali, some Pali canons, some Pali texts. And here, then, once we have ignorance and samsara is almost formed, then what we have, this desire and hatred arise. It's often talked about desire means once ignorance arise in our system, that has caused subject-object duality. Subject means I, ego, or self, that separates from objects or others. And once you have self, then of course, objects are already there. These two are pair. And the main sort of thing here, these two, what causes once self-isolated from others, we cherish ourself. So self means you can feel and you want to be kind of well-being and so forth. But that motivation or self-cherish motivation that's isolated from others or protect from others. And sometimes then, once you have external world or others, is most of the time is some could be harmful. And the Bodhicharya Avatar says even your own food has become sort of your obstacle to killing your self or so forth. And here's a funny story that often in here, friends in America, they think I like natural environment very much. So they often we should go to hiking mountains and some sort of more adventure things. And then I'm half jokingly say, I don't like nature. Nature is very painful and harmful. And that's why we need food and shelters for nature harm. But that, I'm not saying you should not do that, but yeah, I grew up in very much nothing but nature, and yeah, nature is also harmful unless you are just fun for that. If you really need to dealing with nature, nature is quite brutal. So you can see once you separated subject and object or self and others, you want to protect yourself. And you care less about others because you don't feel really. And not only that, then people often misjudge to say others may think that you're a bad person and wanted to harm you and so forth. So the desire of protecting yourself or cherish yourself and less care even than sometimes against other, either mistakenly or something happened. Either way, the hatred is rise. And here, you're subsiding or you are reducing your desire on self is not good enough. You need to get rid of your hatred that rise based on others. Yeah, is that what I'm saying here? Okay. Any questions? Yes.
So what do you do with the anger? Like how does the energy just dissipate? Do you meditate on it?
The meditation is one thing that often nowadays we almost everyone know meditation, but I think your question is really good because in the Buddhist teachings, trying to reduce anger or get rid of anger, that's the whole sort of teaching in the Bodhicharya Avatara, if you are familiar with it. If not, that's famous text that written by we call one of the most kind of scholar and also practitioner that wrote in India. And there they talk about there's no worse than the sin. There's no worse sin than hatred, and there's no, maybe there's no better practice than patience. So patience and hatred, these two are sort of antidote to each other. And there, talk about, in order to reduce your anger, you need to think about logically how this anger arises. If we think about someone throw stone on you, then these texts talk about why you don't feel anger with that stone rather than the person who threw, because the stone that hits you, not the person that that kind of chance to grab your hair and so forth. And that's one way of thinking. And then the main, I think, the most effective thinking is, earlier our chanting, we have these, all mother sentient beings, bound out of sky, have happiness and cause of happiness. And even that in the Drigong tradition, we have called Dhamma. The foremost is the enemies who harm me, hate me or harm me. So take enemies are more center of your focus of practice. Why is doing this? Because we, of course, in Tibet, we often talk about mother is most compassionate, cherished, and also kind person to yourself. And that's why we need to start think about all sentient beings are our own mother in our kind of stream of lives that maybe we took many lives in animals or human beings or others, but always rely on mother. So that's the mother is, these lives' mothers, very important. And also all mothers that involve my different lives are same as this life's mother. And in that case, then all sentient beings are our or my own mother, and I need to treat every single one of them as my own mother. So that's the Buddhist way of thinking, is that can reduce the anger. Maybe people say you can fight with mother, but there's maybe less hatred that will rise. I think your hatred much less than someone harming you directly. So that's one method. And then, of course, often that's a kind of conventional way of dealing. And then we sometimes call ultimate, or what's reality, what's really going on in samsara, which is more involved. That the earlier we are talking about ignorance, the ignorance is mistake or confuse. That this subject-object duality world that we see is arise from just mistake, and there's no really self, and there's no others. The self is just a delusionally created, and until we know that that self is non-exist, we will have these endless samsaric things. So Buddhist teaching wanted to emphasize that there is no self. If there is no self, ultimately, then we can think about how I can hatred to others, because no one harmed me, because I was never exist. And the person or people who are harming me is never exist, because there's no others to exist. That is, I mean, I talk too much here, but I think important thing is there's hundreds of methods to reduce anger. The meditation itself is, I don't know, meditation is more important to have content to what you are doing. Meditation means you sit down, you shut down your mind. You cannot really shut down, and you're thinking something, positive things, that if that is the meditation, then thinking there's many methods to reduce anger. But I think the main method is treat everyone as your own mother. And if you can think about that, then also sometimes think about, I should not get angry, because there's no self and there's no others. Why I'm angry? I mean, I'm not saying it will disappear everything, but that is the training what we do. Just meditating is maybe, the content is very important, the meditation. These days everyone do meditation, but we don't exactly know what does meditation mean. And Buddhist whole practice is called meditation sometimes. So means chanting is meditation, and reciting is meditation, and practice all Tibetan teachings. I'm kind of jokingly last year I said that Tibetans, we don't meditate. It's just we practice. That. Sorry, too much sidetrack. Okay, thank you so much for the question.
I have a question. I find it kind of hard to calm my mind when I'm angry, and I know
Sorry, I was distracted something. Can you repeat?
I find it really hard to calm my mind when I'm angry, especially if it's a safety issue and I'm angry because it's a safety issue. I try to redirect the energy by cleaning or doing something else. But I like what you said about reflecting why you were angry in the first place. I don't think I do that part. I do the cleaning, but then the situation happens again and I get angry again. But I'm trying to figure out that whole reflecting on what made me angry in the first place.
Yeah, and also that's a really good observation. And also people often talk about meditation and the kind of this anger and angriest, so the reducing that part. And there's a reason that we need to reduce anger. It says that a person is very angry at the same time it's very happy. It's you cannot really find that kind of person is very happy with angry. Once you are angry, then your blood pressure is up, and then you are maybe something else is going on. It's anger is must reduce somehow, and I think there's many methods, and often Buddhists teachings talk about this 84,000 teachings, which means the methods to try to reduce anger. So use different methods to reduce, and also sometimes if you disengage with everything and be quiet and there's no problem, then maybe you don't really notice you can handle anger or not, because you are not engaging. And that's why sometimes in India, Panditas or teachers, when they come to Tibet first, and the Tibetans kind of venerate them and respect them, and then they have no choice to get angry. So some Indian Panditas, they kept pets that monkeys or some naughty animals to make them angry. So because sometimes you need to, in order to get rid of, you also need to aware of you are capable of that, but not saying you better to have angry, but not saying that sometimes we don't know what we are capable of. Yes, John.
Hello.
Yes.
I think you answered what I was wondering about, which is just the value of quieting the mind to remove yourself from the mental fixation of the anger. Say anger arises and you feed the anger with your thoughts. And so then the habit of sitting and stilling the mind gets you out of the physiological surge of adrenaline or whatever it is that is feeding your anger, whereas if you're constantly revisiting, oh, he did this, she did that, then it's hard to calm down, I guess, and gain some insight. But once you're calm, then you can say, okay, yeah, it's an all other sentient being over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway, it was just a comment, but I think you answered that. So
yeah, exactly. I think, and somehow I can resist to keep saying Shantideva's Bodhichaya Avatara here. Here is right that once your anger is rising, you need to still and sit like a lot, piece of wood, so you don't do anything, don't engage anything. And then also sometimes he's talk about sometimes you're physically something going on and you need to release that. Maybe you better to beat some trees or stones or rocks to at least release your energy. That's also helps if your anger is exactly, yeah. Does people get more angry when they're tired, or I'm not sure. I heard in a Ramadan, in Muslim holy month, people get more fist fightings because somehow food is also a factor too. At least be normal is better if you can. If not, well, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we have online people, so.
Hello, thank you for your teachings.
Thank you for coming.
You're talking about once you have subject and object, then we separate ourselves from others, and then we have this feeling we need to protect ourselves and aversion arises. I have this problem. I was just talking about it with a friend yesterday. What part of maybe a meditation to focus on in your heart or energetically to help feel the oneness and the connection? What would you recommend?
That's a really good question, and I think last part I don't quite understand. Maybe you have some already kind of understanding of the treating oneness and this oneness of your and others, or okay. Here, what we usually start with, we call sutras. Yeah, if you are familiar with sutras, more exoteric teachings that dealing with self and others are inseparable in unity, because self and other both never exist. So that's the idea. It's not saying the self and others are unity with existing. Without existing, that's why this is indivisible, or these two are. Maybe that's some way of thinking it, but I think immediately reducing anger or jealous or envy or whatever we call with friends is of course difficult one, but more need to think about earlier we are talking about this every sentient beings as on mother, and then if we think about esoteric teachings, then we talk about I cannot really treat others as bad because others are sort of my deity. I cannot treat bad, but I don't know. Are you familiar with that or not? But anyway, there's many ways of treating. So the knowing emptiness, what we call sometimes egolessness, that's Buddhist the main teaching. And earlier I was talking about these Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths, the very first, everything is impermanent, everything is selflessness, which means there's nothing exists in this world. Self and others are empty of intrinsic nature and so forth. So that's kind of high understanding of the Buddhist emptiness notion of the treating each other. But I think relatively also better to treat that the reason that I'm not angry with such a person because they are my own parents and so forth. It's more important things. And then also, what anger does is, again, Bodhicharya Avatara, this teaching, we can see if someone harm you, if you want to revenge or justice back, then that's also a fight back to you and increase more. And then sometimes first start with 2-person fighting, and then 2 family fighting, and then 2 village fighting, and then 2 country fighting. So that's kind of a multiplication of the anger through anger can do that. I think if you can reduce very beginning, at least manageable to reduce is better. If one thing maybe you can do, if this person is always kind of make upset you, maybe you should not engage with that person. I just avoid somehow, yeah. And also, fighting anger with anger seems very, very bad. And these texts again, Bodhicharya Avatara say, you cannot really cover up this whole world by some sort of cover. In India, at that time it's called leather. If this, you think this whole world is harming you and very thorny, so you better to buy a nice shoes rather than try to covering up everything. So that's kind of practical things in these texts. Maybe if you have time or with some friends, just read this text. Is very, very important and very profound and also very practical. Yeah, I don't know I answer or not, but that's yeah. There's many ways of treating. Of course, then if you realize your emptiness, then you don't really treat or discriminate anyway. And yeah, that's sort of we call peace and nirvana and so forth. Okay, more? Anything online? I know. Okay. And then verse 9. Kang lu thang nga thang ne yi ji nye pa me she ba ne kap som je don ba jen tala dan cham zir ju.
Whoever causes no harm by body, speech, or mind, and is restrained in all these 3, that one I call a Brahmin.
The one who does no wrong through body, speech, or mind, restrained in the 3 ways, him I call a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm. And I often say this many times already. Sometimes people treat this the stream is only mind. We only care about mind, but Buddhists, they care about what you say and how you act and what you think. These are important. And we often call Lu Ngak Hi Sum, the body, speech, and mind. And it's also involved with these enlightened or awakened body, speech, and mind. We think about that, and especially in a tantric practice, Tibetan tantric practice, the recitation is very important. And the recitation of a mantra is also important. And the mantra itself has on power of cleansing our system, and then of course the body. The body is related to the mind, and that the mind, in order to purify our mind, we often talk about how you sit and how you your postures are performed and so forth. It's important. And there is a Patamba Sanji in Tibet, the India Pandita, and he say, Deju Jamdro Ngaji Tripata. If you do recitation and prayers of refuge in bodhicitta, will purify the obscuration of speech. And then you do prostration and circumambulation and so forth, purify your obscuration of your body, and these are important. And then the visualization and so forth purifies your mind. And also, sometimes our way of practice seems very busy and not really kind of settle and relaxing and meditating. So, but Tibetans always practice in this way, and sometimes my teachers talks about this. Maybe studying is much more virtue or powerful than meditating. He said, when we study, we try to understand the meaning, and that your focus is almost totally in a subject. When you meditate, if you're really good meditator, then of course important, but then sometimes people just sit there in accounting and plan the next meal and so forth. It's sometimes in Tibet we have these stories that people go to 3-year retreat, come out, become very good business person, because time to have calculating things that it's be careful what you do. Not what you do, but more how you do it. That's important. So it's again here it's called Atramse. Atramse, or the Brahmin, and Gautami is the lineage or the family line that Buddha Shakyamuni was. This Gautami is here. And Shariputra, so we know, if you want to know these names are, Ananda is attendant, Buddhist attendant. Shariputra is one of them. Usually, wherever there's a Buddha statue, we have Shariputra and Mangalana. And Gautami is his bloodline or the family line. And then we have 10. Zogbi Sanji Tenbaye Chune Suli Shichuna Gurda Changsar Telasha Jinsik Mela Tramzishin.
Honor the one who shows you the Dharma, the teachings of the perfect Buddha. Show this one the same respect and awe that the Brahman shows the sacrificial fire.
The one from whom you can learn the Dhamma taught by the fully awakened one, you should honor with reverence as a Brahmin honors the sacrificial fire.
Mm-hmm. Here again, we have this Brahmin, what they're doing, the fire puja. Often they're always involved with fire puja. And probably we all sort of know what they do, but if not, can look at YouTube these days. They make fire offerings all the time, yeah. So that here the Buddha is making examples that what Brahmins would do. And similarly, you learn Buddha Dharma from a person. That person you should respect. Yeah. And that's easy, yeah. And then spoken in the Jitavana Grove, and we have a Ralava Regton Ru Taki, a Tamzani to Menjorte, Kala Dantan Chu Yobi Takbatan Tamzani.
Not by lineage, not by birth, not by uncut hair does one become a Brahmin. The one who has truth and the Dharma, the pure one, is a Brahmin.
You don't become a Brahmin by matted locks, by lineage, or by caste. The one in whom are truth and Dhamma, he's pure and he's a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like his teachings are against at least Brahmin caste at that time. It's clear that Brahmins has these dreadlocks or not, but at least they keep their hairs and their caste and so forth are important, and how they present themselves as important people or lineage or person is they talk about the creator Brahma in the Hindu tradition. So the creator Brahma, they created Brahmins through head or some sort of upper torso, and then the lower castes are created by the lower torso of Brahma, the god. So that's why already kind of decided there are where that should belong. And so Buddha say he doesn't want to call that as Brahmin. He wants the real Brahmin are the who knows or who has truth or who knows the truth and who knows virtue and who has virtue. That's called the Brahmins. We know that what is truth, Buddhists wanted to say there's no subject-object, even there's no subject-object duality, there's no self, there's no other. And the whole samsara is kind of a magical, delusional creation that never exists anywhere. That's also, I think, if we think more about the samsara as sort of delusional creation that's almost like magical display, then we have less kind of attachment to the samsara. So that's maybe reduce also strong anger, jealous, and so forth. That's one way of think about samsara is not a really solid thing, and I need to treat less sort of a tangible way, and then that may help us to reduce our anger. And now we know sometimes Buddhists talk about these true truths. We talked about Four Noble Truths earlier, and the true truth means what you're seeing and what's behind of that. So what you are seeing is not the real thing, and the behind there's nothing exists. Sometimes some famous writers talks about these appearances, or what we see things is like a cloud, but behind that, this sky, unchanging, never changed kind of nature of truth is behind these appearances. If we clinging on too much on these things, then we are tangled in samsara, kind of deeply involving things. That's why we all have strong, most of us, I cannot say all, but to me it's more, there's something that exists. I need to must involve. I need to change things and so forth. It's good things, but sometimes, of course, parents always want to their children's the best, and also that involves a lot of things. Yeah, and we also don't know what's the outcome would be. Yeah? So samsara is a trap that we are in, and somehow we need to not involve samsaric things, but of course we are samsaric beings, so it's sometimes in the West or America we call this person is not dissolved. Not now my English, not dissolve. Not dissolve. No. Some person has a tremendous suffering, then what do you say? This person should not have dessert? Yeah, deserve, yeah. Yeah. Once you say that, seems someone deserve it, yeah. Yeah. So we should not have that kind of yeah. So that is not solving the problem of samsara. So that's why I couldn't come up that term. Anyway, that's one thing. And then 12 is lumbo ravi chula. Bakwe yong yi chula ji. Chu ji non zogwe kong. Chiro yong stroverchi.
What use is your long hair, you foolish man? What use is your antelope skin? You cleanse and purify your outside so well, but inside you are most unclean.
Fool, what use are your matted locks, your antelope skin garment? There's a mess inside you. You clean the outside.
Yeah, it's a Tibetan. Excuse me. What did you say? Did you say something? Yeah, it's now again Bodhicharya Avatara. No. Yeah, Bodhicharya Avatara talks about these 32 unpure substance of our body. So not only the dreadlocks and what you wear, but your whole body is already already these unpure things. But right before lunch, if you want to go through that, we can. I'm happy to go through that. But maybe you already know that sometimes people think differently. Since I think maybe animals, I'm not sure, humans seems we are comfortable when we not directly aware of, because we see inside our intestines all those good stuff we eat this morning are kind of changing colors and so forth. But we don't want to think about that. We are good human beings that capable of do many good things. Of course, then sometimes in a Hindu tradition, we have this cleansing outside your body. It's very important. They go to Ganges rivers to wash, and believe that all the sins can cleanse by the river. So that's also kind of a fun way of Buddha can tease their friends. I guess there's a very Andy Rooney, I think his poem is talking about these Brahmins are always worship fires. When fire burned their house, then they put all the dirty waters and and dirt on a fire. So it's kind of ironic that how people forget the fire. The Agni is now need to put down. Yeah. Okay. 13. This is a famous place called the Vulture Pig. Vulture Pig is a famous place where, if you want to know, Heart Sutra was taught there. Heart Sutra is it's a very short teaching and precise. So if you are interested in emptiness, you should look at, read that text. It's only a few pages and very famous, and maybe that's also helps how to reduce anger and so forth. Okay. Dorji Tigbi Ku Chongshin, Luna Reading, Jubi Yo, Nana Tigbur Gomshiba, Teledan Chamsirju.
The one who wears dust-covered rags and is so thin his ribs stand out, the one who meditates in the forest alone, that one I call a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm.
The person who wears clothes from a dust heap, lean, a tracery of veins, meditating alone in the wood, him I call a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm. So here we know the 6 years Buddha kind of practiced austerity that really you can see some images we don't have, but the statues that really shows only skin and bone left. And to find some Pali text that talks about this, his practice and austerity. He's talking about the hunger, that kind of excruciating and pain that really sort of vividly you can see how difficult it was at that period of time, the hunger that strikes him. I mean, real hunger, I think, eat from inside here. That the hunger is starvation. And then he knows that at that time, this is not tolerable and this is not sustainable. So that's why he give up that kind of austerity to balancing his life. Yes.
This verse seems to be saying you should engage in such austerities.
Yeah,
So
of course. I'm just saying he went through this, and but his austerity is necessary, but severe austerity is not. Here he's comparing Brahmins to the practice, how to practice. The Brahmins only care about cleansing their bodies, and they don't do real austerity practice. He's saying austerity is necessary, but I think extreme austerity is, I'm saying extreme austerity is not necessary. You know, after six years, then he at least accept some foods and so forth. Yeah.
maybe this is like a contrast with the prior verse, where he said, you have a mess on the inside, but you clean the outside. Maybe he's saying here, this is how you would clean the inside, to really practice with diligence.
Yes, I think that's truth. And also what you wear and how you look is not important, but internally you need to develop things. Yeah.
Thank you.
But he didn't say what should you eat or stop eating. Any thoughts? Want to do austerity? No? Okay. One more. 14. 참지 인시 제네탕 마리 총시 다메마. 테네 보로 샤와탕 데네 노르젠 인드세. 지용 메지면에 바탈 당 참지주.
I do not call someone a Brahmin because he belongs to a family of Brahmins, because he was born to a Brahmin mother, or puts on heirs, or has wealth. But the one who has nothing at all and is attached to nothing at all, that one I call a Brahmin.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't call someone a Brahmin because he's born of a Brahmin womb or mother. If he owns anything, he's just a man who says, "Good sir." One who owns nothing without clinging, him I call a Brahmin.
Yeah, here, I think this is important part. Buddhist, at least any level of Buddhist practitioners. That he's saying here, the one who has nothing at all, and it is stretched to nothing at all. So that's the purpose of Buddhist teaching. That one I call Brahmin. That's a Brahmin or the good practitioner. I think we, rather than seeing what some translations say holy man or good practitioner, I don't know what. We all have Brahmin here. You have Brahmin there? Okay, so it means good practitioner. So attachment is the most kind of cause of the problem that Buddhists want to say. Once you have attached to something, then you want to protect and cherish things, and that cause triggering to something else, because then once you're discriminating, something is closer to you than distancing others, and then all cause arise from there. At least that's why attachment needs to reduce or get rid of that. That is important, and then this attachment and or desire and hatred goes hand in hand. So once you have attachment, someone say, I have tremendous attachment, but I don't have hatred. Maybe it's not really truth. And once you say, I have tremendous hatred, but I don't have any attachment, that is not either. So we are not judging anyone, but we are trying to understanding that, or maybe we trying to reduce our own attachment and hatred, and understanding what is ignorant. That's the purpose of our study here. I think today we don't have much time left, and we could stop here. If you have one question, we can discuss, but if not, then we can chant dedication and then stop.
So on page 24 in your prayer book, by the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikungpa Ratnashri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara.
Thank you.
Thank you.